also I won a grant on the U.S. State Department, and we selected 29 youths across ASEAN to get workshops and training on ASEAN renewable energy issues. And my current doctoral dissertation, so actually I was just graduated from my doctoral degree, and then my doctoral dissertations also revolve around Eco-ELT, environmentalism, and eco-criticism. And I'm also Global Community of Empirical Eco-Criticism, and this is about me. And I would like to invite you all to join our new Eco-ELT community group. So this is a group, kind of community group in the Facebook, and this is a global group. Yeah, I mean, a lot of scholars and ELT teachers across the globe who are joining this group and keen towards studying and teaching environmental issues. So you are invited, warmly invited to this group, and then exchange resources, references, or even studies in this group. And let's begin then. So I would like to invite you all to remind and to see what is happening in our Earth. So actually our Earth, the place we call home, is now slowly dying. So let's have a look. So this research is come from Science Journal, so one of the top journal after Nature journal. And look at this. This is from Richardson's in 2023. That this is the geological epoch conditions right now. So in the past, like 11,700 years ago, the green color is where our Earth right now. So in the past, we were in the green color. We are in the safe operating space for humanity. But currently, our Earth is getting warm, and then it affects the ecosystem. And then you can see that after a long time ago, up until now, there is a changes between the safe operating space of ecosystem for us to live with peace, without any environmental problems, but now move towards more high-risk zone. This is happening in our Earth. So this is the geological conditions of our Earth, that a lot of land system change, freshwater change, and this impacted to the whole ecosystem, to the whole disasters happening, such as climate change. 2023, the United Nations environmental program showed or reported that 1.1 Celsius degree of our climate will change, like increase, and that affect the more frequent and hazardous events of that affecting the ecosystem and the presence of us. Even the biodiversity also lost because of this situation. And then you can see like mammals, birds now are devastating because of these situations. And environmental problems not only happening or affect the ecosystem and our fellow friends, creatures, plants, and animals, but also our existence as humans. I would like to share a little bit story about COVID-19 pandemic and its relations to environmental problems. So we can know, or we already know, that COVID-19 has already made a lot of huge kind of disasters for the presence or the existence of humans. And this is the deaths record for the COVID-19 virus. And the study from the Nature journal and also Science journal showed that the transportations for the virus, airborne virus such as COVID-19, influenza to spread is because of aerosols, is because of dust, is because of small particles that linger on the air. So when we sneeze, when we cough, yeah, when we talk and we produce kind of viruses, and then the viruses attach on the small particles and then linger in the air, and then we inhale those viruses on small particles, and then we get affected. So that's why sometimes we figure out we already keep distance like 7 meters, even like 20 meters. We wear masks with fit and proper, but still we can get affected. Why? Because of the transportations for the virus to spread, vastly super spreading events is because of dust. It's because of small particles called aerosol. And these aerosols come from air pollution, come from our daily combustions, such as cars, such as we burn trashes, and so on and so forth. So remember that the COVID-19 pandemic that caused a lot of disasters, especially our existence as humans, is because of environmental problems as well. So environmental problems cause not only the existence of humans, ecosystem, but also the whole environmental kind of ecosystem, such as plants, animals, and other kind of living beings. So we need to understand these current and also dangerous situations as humans. And then what about in our field of ELT? Is there any unsustainable practices that is happening? Yes. So especially when we do face-to-face conferences, we do not think much about the sustainable consumption of food and water that we drink during face-to-face conferences. But right now, because of the Zoom, because of online, and I'm so happy because this can addresses the unsustainable food consumption during face-to-face ELT conferences. But sometimes we also witness that littering cultures among students are also still happening when we teach English and so on. So the next question would be, do we really need to wait our unsustainable practices coming to our field? Or we take actions now to tackle current and future possible unsustainable practices in our field of ELT? This is a very good book, Dissolve and Sustainability, from Jason Gola and also John Katnick. In this book, it reveals or it echoes that our field of ELT has the same responsibility to address environmental issues, in English language teaching. So the job of addressing environmental issues is not on the hands of science education only. I repeat, the job of addressing environmental issues is not merely on the hands of science education or STEM education. Addressing climate change, air pollution, and other kind of environmental problems need coordinated actions across disciplines, across fields, and even across sectors, education, politics, and so on. So as one of the fields of study in education, ELT also carries the same responsibility as other fields of study to address environmental issues, bringing positive equilibrium to our Earth. And the potential of our ELT to address environmental problem already echoed back then in 2010, Bowden also echoed that our field of ELT has more freedom to choose what kind of materials to teach and then to transfer and also to equip the students with the understanding and knowledge as well as skills and attitudes related to sustainable development goals, because we can teach gender, we can teach about climate change in ELT using ubiquitous teaching materials, text, videos, short stories, and so on and so forth. And then this is one of the top journal, from Oxford University, ELT journal. In this journal, one of the recent studies is from Mercer et al. This study also echoes that language teaching is not exempt from the responsibility of education more broadly, meaning that ELT has the responsibility and potential to address global issues, including environmental crisis. And what are other scholars say about Eco-ELT anyway? So back then in 1996, Bagel already given a hint that our classroom, English language classroom, is appropriate for more comprehensive intellectuals and philosophical discussions where English students can learn about nature and environmental ethics through literary texts. So sometimes we use environmental literary texts such as short stories, poetry about environment, and those can be an avenue for us to instill positive relationship among students of English with the nature. And then we can do eco-critical discussions using literary texts. So that's why we have more freedom actually in English classroom to evoke and then to build positive relationship between humans and nature, because we have ubiquitous teaching materials that can facilitate in that kind to achieve that utopian goals. And then currently also Marcel said the same thing, and then El Sharif also the same things. So teaching about environmental issues in ELT also actually prepare the students, especially in EFL learners, to prepare them to take TOEFL and IELTS tests. Because TOEFL and IELTS test questions, they also talk about environment. They also talk about economics and so on. So when we teach about environmental topics in English classroom, it's actually help prepare our students, especially EFL students, to take TOEFL or IELTS test later on in the future. And then we need to shift our paradigms that we need to see our students as humans. So students, English students, they are humans. So we have the responsibility actually to see them as a human. They have two goals or duality goals or responsibility in this case. We need to equip them with the skills to address environmental issues. They carry responsibility as humans to take care of the nature, but at the same time, they are also English students who must be proficient in English to be a part of global citizens, meaning that I coined this kind of term or maybe kind of phrases. We need to see our students as a global sustainable citizens, meaning global is they can speak English and communicate it and express idea in English globally. Sustainable meaning that they carry responsibility and they need to take actions to address environmental problems. So global sustainable citizens. So we need to see our students, not only students who need English, but also students who need to achieve their duty as a steward of Earth, and because they are humans in this case. And we also need to shift or make sure that our students understand their presence and duty as humans, and they need to we need to kind of build a strong relationship with nature, because strong relationship with nature will lead to decrease the possibility of students or humans to harm nature. Because if we feel a part of the nature, we love nature, there is less possibility for us to harm nature. And we need to make the students to think about that they are a part of the nature, and there is nature inside their body. So when the students understand their existence is a part of the nature, they need water. Our body have water. We need 70% our water to make our brain function. So imagine that there is no water, there is no nature inside our body. What is happening in our body? Maybe disposal or maybe break it down. So the students need to have idea of this relationship when we teach English. So this kind of graph, this kind of pictures, we can have talk or conversations with the students talking about this kind of issue. And then we have already witnessed the importance and potentials of ELT field in environmental sustainability. However, how far has our field of ELT contributed to address environmental crisis? This is my diagram. So the first movement of environmentalism come to English study is first eco-criticism. Is the study of environmental literary texts and its relations to environment. So how literature can shape humans' relations to nature, and this the study of eco-criticism. So seeing the role of literature such as English literature, poetry, novels, and so on for environmental sustainability. But then eco-linguistic come into being, which means that the role of language such as English for addressing environmental issues, and then for environmental advocacy. I give you example. Sometimes we perceive the conjunction, grammatical conjunction such as I see someone who is wearing. The who coordinated conjunction is for humans. Eco-linguistic, kind of eco-linguistic advocate that who coordinated conjunction is not only for humans, but also for non-humans, non-human beings, such as I see a cat who is eating. We usually say that I see a cat which is eating. So we kind of having favoritism towards animals and plants. They are living beings. They have the same rights. They have the same right to be recognized as living being. So we need to reframe and use the word coordinated conjunctions of who instead of which to represent beings. Where is the contributions of ELT? Where is ELT come into play in this case? What is the role of teaching? Not yet. So we still do not have kind of inclusive term that come up that can be a home for environmental movement in ELT to live and grow. We cannot use eco-linguistic to develop teaching materials. We cannot teach eco-linguistic to assess students. So we need principles of method. We need principles of teaching, developing, of curriculum. Those are in the area of teaching or education. So that's why there is a missing kind of knowledge in this case. Yeah, so that's why we need inclusive term and kind of a framework to be a home for environmental movement in ELT to live and grow. So that's why I proposed and coined a term Eco-ELT back then in 2014. So those are the first term that I can propose. As for now, I'm right now collecting the movement of Eco-ELT. So I already collected 113 papers across the globe from starting 1980 to 2023. So I already read this kind of articles, 113 articles to document the movements of environmentalism in ELT. And the first movement of environmentalism was started in French. Actually, it was related to ESP in this case. So the ESP is the first home for environmentalism come into being in the ELT field. So that's in 1980. So I would like to publish this kind of a book. So I'm still writing a book about Eco-ELT. And this book is research-based and based on the data of papers, literature review papers across the globe. And I already found out across 32 countries already contributed in this case and divided into global south and global north kind of contributions of ELT. So I do hope that I can manage to publish this book this year. I'm still writing it, and then I do hope that I can share to you all after I finish or publish these articles or this book. And then what is Eco-ELT anyway? So Eco-ELT simply defined as the study of teaching, as the study and teaching of environmental issue. So if you are teachers and then you want to teach environmental issue, then you are a part of Eco-ELT movement. If you are scholars, researchers in higher education, professors, if you want to do research about Eco-ELT, about teaching environmental issue, then you are also a part of Eco-ELT movement. So Eco-ELT, there are two branches, as a study and then as a practice, as a teaching. So I already shared the idea of Eco-ELT across the globes. So at least I have managed to share the idea of Eco-ELT in 11 countries, including in UK today. So I try to propagate or disseminate the idea of Eco-ELT because this is the first attempt of environmental movement in ELT, and I do hope that our field, are clear in terms of the position and contributions of environmentalism in the field of ELT. So there is so we do not hope that there is a growth of skepticism across the contributions of ELT. Where is the contribution of ELT up until now to address environmental issue? As a very limited, only 113 articles find out across the globe. So we need to foster and propel this movement so that there is a clear footprint of ELT on environmental sustainability. So as mentioned earlier, that Eco-ELT is simply defined as a study and teaching of environmental issues in ELT. So the Eco-ELT concerns on the pillar of environment, if it relates to the sustainable developments, and then, but it doesn't mean that it exclusively concerns on environment, because problems of environment are interrelated with the social and then economic. So, but the focus is still in environment. And then this is my publications back then. So the term Eco-ELT was found, or I coined in 2014, and it was referred to using environmental literary works. So this is the first definition or conceptualization of Eco-ELT as a study of or teaching environmental issue using literary works. But I found out that this conceptualization is very limited and cannot encompass various diverse kind of approaches or methods. So in 2020, I refined the conceptualization of Eco-ELT, but still using environmental literary works, but not only printed, but also digital literary works. And in 2023, I kind of refined the conceptualizations of Eco-ELT to be more inclusive, because environmental teaching and study about in ELT can involve or can incorporate various approaches and methods. We can use project-based learning, not necessarily using literary works, right? We can use project, we can do digital storytelling, and then we can do critical discussion. So I refined the term of Eco-ELT, the concept of Eco-ELT, to be more inclusive, so that it can encompass a lot of movements of Eco-ELT. As long as you study about environmental teaching in ELT, you are a part of Eco-ELT. As long as you teach about environmental teaching in ELT, then you are also a part of Eco-ELT. This is interesting questions. Why we should call it Eco-ELT? Why not green ELT? Why not blue ELT? Why not pink ELT? Why not black or other colors? Why? Why we should always, because there is a movement called green economy. Everything is always about green. Why not we do not use green? Why we should use Eco-ELT? Well, it deals with environmental history. When I studied, or during my doctoral degree, I took a course on eco-criticism and critical environmental history, where we live on land, right? And then we see the best representation of good nature is always green, so that it will lead to our paradigm that we always perceive things good in nature without pollution is always green. And this affect our mindset that seeing a good nature is always green. And this lead to the focus of us only addressing environmental problems on land. So that's why in 2021, there is a new movement called blue eco-criticism or blue environmentalism. This blue environmentalism challenges naming of green, because we always focusing on land. That's why we have land-based thinking, and we forget that environmental problems also happen on the oceans. In fact, our Earth, 75% consists of ocean, right? So water is a lot than land. So that's why we need to make a movement called blue. And then I challenge the name of blue and green. Why? Because environmental problems also happen on air, such as air pollution. Is there any color of air? Should we call it gray ELT, clear ELT? Well, instead of we just using or naming green, blue, pink, let's use eco term, Eco-ELT. It represents the ecosystem. It tells about ecosystem, so the whole. When we name our movement Eco-ELT, it will signify to the public that the commitment and contribution of ELT in environmentalism not only addressing environmental problems happening on land, happening on the ocean, but the whole cosmos, the whole ecosystem. So Eco-ELT in this case is the best term to to signify, to tell to the public that the commitment and the participations of ELT in environmental problems covers a lot of environmental problems, not only on land, air, in the ocean, or the whole cosmos. So remember, we need to use Eco-ELT instead of green, blue, pink. So this is the scholars that challenge the naming of green. And what are the Eco-ELT bases? Because Eco-ELT is interdisciplinary, so that's why there is a basis for the language and then basis for the ecology or the education. I would like to tell you or explain it here briefly. For the right part, which is the language. So the basis for Eco-ELT movement is the social constructivism theory, which emphasize the roles of social interactions and cooperations in constructing knowledge of reality of learners. So learners not only depend on the cognitive ability to get the language, to understand the language, to improve their proficiency, but also language learners also depend on outside factors that affect their acquisitions and also learning. And that outside factors can be from textbook they read, the person they are talking with. So those outside factors can be accommodated by the presence of Eco-ELT. Eco-ELT has ubiquitous teaching materials, learning materials about environment in English, and this can be a comprehensible input for the acquisitions and learning of the students to get the language, so that they can have proficiency well in English. And the left part about ecology is environmentalism, education for sustainable development, and eco-pedagogy. So ELT, as a part of the education, also carries the responsibility and concept for education for sustainable development. And then we can integrate that in Eco-ELT as the basis. And the last part is eco-pedagogy. So this deals with the holistic view of the world, challenging the environmental violence. So when we talk about or teach about environmental issues in ELT, we can bring or situate our students to think about environmental violence happening around them, so that it is more context-based and relevant to their life. And this can increase the possibility of students to get engaged with the discussions of environment, but at the same time, the students also train their English skills, such as speaking, reading, writing, and get comprehensible input from the learning materials they learn, authentic materials they learn. So these are the basis of Eco-ELT. And benefits definitely for English students, English teachers, their linguistic, intellectuality, social emotions are also developed. And this is for the post-method pedagogy for the teachers. Remember, there is no one panacea for all disease. There is no one best method fit with all contexts of study. So this ELT upholds the principle or kind of approaches, methods, as long as it fits with your work of Eco-ELT. You can do a lot of intervention or activities. First, teaching about sustainable consumption. Second, experiential. So sorry, this is mistyped, meaning that you can bring students to go out to the nature, to get direct contact with the nature, because direct contact with the nature can bring strong positive connections between humans and nature. So we can teach students English while we are also in the forest, in the garden, and so on and so forth. We can also increase their knowledge, attitudes, and also emotion, feeling of empathy towards nature, and even changing their world view. We can change their worldview. We can have critical discussions with the students, so that the students do not think that they are the master of the nature. They are egalitarian position. So they are the master of the nature, and then nature are out of the nature. They are egalitarian positions with the nature. They are one ecosystem. So this worldview need to be shifted by eco-critical discussions in the nature. So what are the instances? This is already things that I do. I'm right now doing project called Drama in Climate Change. So a lot of activities that I do, and then I'm still publishing articles and so on. This is, I would like to share descriptive writing about non-human plants and animals. So this is in writing course, actually academic writing course, where the students write a paragraph, academic paragraph in English, and I ask the students to go out to the nature to take picture about animals and plants. And then they go back to the class and then see their picture about environment. And afterwards, they need to position themselves as animals and plants, and then they need to see around them. So what they see, what they feel as if they are the plants and animals. And this activity can develop students' writing skill and also empathy to nature. So this is their product of writing, actually. So this is very good in cooperating writing class with English, with the nature. And we can also do micro-historic eco-compositions when they go out to the nature to report or essay. And then we can do eco-critical pedagogy using environmental media, poetry, songs, films, discussions, or for young learners, we can use video, poetries, and so on. A lot of things we can use environmental news, eco debates, eco drama. That I'm right now. My project is drama on climate change. And what we as a scholar, what we can do, or what if you want to do research, what we will do. Well, Eco-ELT is an interdisciplinary study. So as a scholars, you have choices to integrate maybe the theory of eco-criticism or the theory of animal rights or plants rights, yeah, in cooperations when you are teaching about environmental issue or when you do research about environmental issue. You can do research about how to develop teaching materials, curriculum, policy, assessment, how to assess. So you can do research, a lot of research area because this is new movement, a lot of room to be filled with. And then we can do research across different settings and across EFL contexts. So this is one of my study that just yesterday, it is a subject. So this study calls about nature connectedness and nature interest. This is actually the representations of mixed method study. So this is the quantitative study, and then the qualitative results. I combine it, those items from the quantitative study and qualitative results, and then I represent it in the forms of kind of pictures. So that's this ecomusicology. So when the students learn English about nature, so the song is about Earth from Little Dicky. So the singers is like the singers from like Justin Bieber, a lot of great singers, Ariana Grande, but in English about nature. So how they feel about nature afterwards and what their vocabulary they get. So their English skills and also their feeling of oneness to the nature and interest to the nature are increased. And these are the representations of their cognitive kind of development or perspectives. So conclusion, ELT carry the responsibility to address environmental issues. So what does it mean? We have responsibility first to develop students' English proficiency and to build strong positive relations between students and nature. And remember, ELT has responsibility and potential to address environmental crisis, saving planetary ecosystem. Let's prove to the world that our ELT field has the commitment and will continuously participate in the local, national, and global environmental sustainability. It is not too late for TESOL to join in and contribute to saving our world. I repeat, everyone, it is not too late for TESOL to join in and contribute to saving our world. And I also coin or take the Halliday, Professor Halliday term that classism, growthism, destructions of species, pollution, and the like are not just the problems of biology and physics. They are the problems of for all applied linguistic community as well. Let's take action now. Let's save our Earth healthy. I thank you, everyone. So that's all my presentations.
Thank you so much, Jepri. This is wonderful and exciting, and also I think it gives us all hope towards the future, because like, you know, we hear all these like, you know, horrible news about the Arctic and the oceans heating up and etc. And I think we need like, you know, more presentations of like, you know, this source, so that like, you know, we can have the motivation and also the hope to you know, to move forward and, you know, to be more positive about the future. So I'll just open the floor for questions from the audience. I do have a couple of questions myself, but let's see what the audience has first. Yeah, Ricardo.
Thank you, Jepri. That was really interesting. I really liked your projects as well, which showed how English language education can also contribute to the crisis, or to mitigating the crisis, or at least negotiating the crisis, I guess. I do have a lot of questions because I think we are very, very close when it comes to our teaching foci and research foci, but I'm going to send you a follow-up email. Maybe one question to start with. On the slide where you had the diagram, you mentioned eco-criticism, you mentioned eco-linguistics, and then you had a question mark. And I would like to learn more about your opinion of, what if we put cultural learning there? What do you think? Cultural learning.
Cultural learning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What do you think
From
about
culture, right?
or
From
culture? Sure.
Yeah. Pop culture. Pop culture is a part of eco-criticism, is a part of literary works, is a part of culture. Literature. Literature is about humanity. So culture, cultural studies, cultural studies, pop culture, and then literature are interconnected. So this can be used eco-criticism. So eco-criticism is also negotiating a lot of fields. So eco-criticism back then in 1965, when the Claude Felty first mentions about eco-criticism as a study of relationship between nature and environment and literature. So all types of literature, not only literature in the printed text, any documents, but also in real life stories. So the movement of eco-criticism right now, not only related to text, but also real life practices, but also related to kind of cultures, because and also media. So if we put pop culture in relations to kind of environmentalism in the third spot, the spot that I'm question mark, is already actually accommodated with the presence of eco-criticism. So my view, is there any relations with pop culture and also English language teaching and environment? Yes, of course. So in ecomusicology, teaching English using music, isn't it music a pop culture? Yeah, it is also a pop culture. So we can definitely, my view about it, yes, for sure, we can teach about environmental issues using pop culture, and then a lot of pop culture works that we can incorporate, such as maybe literary works, songs, through ecomusicology. So those are a part of eco-criticism. So why I actually created those diagrams, to display or to demonstrate that there is a missing knowledge, there is a missing point or a movement in the field of ELT that has been not yet taken seriously in terms of its contribution to address environmental issue. We know eco-linguistic. Eco-linguistic come from what? Language, right? Eco-criticism come from what? Literature. But where is come from teaching? Not yet. So we need inclusive term, inclusive concept and framework, so that there is a home for environmental movement in the field of ELT to live and grow. So I coined and proposed Eco-ELT as the third triangle. I call it trisula. So this is kind of trisula, triangle interconnected. They are interconnected actually. And then you can teach English about environment, integrating those all three. So that's what I can respond about your questions. But wonderful questions. Thank you very much anyway.
Viola has her hand up, but
Yeah.
Lavinia put a question in the chat that I'm going to read. So how do we ensure that the work we do in this space doesn't translate only into awareness raising and an exploration of our connections with the nature, but also moves forward into actually changing the world? I think it's a excellent question. It's a very big question. So
yeah. This is a great question, and always have always consistent questions projecting to us as environmentalists. This is the frequent questions. Remember, we need to understand or comprehend the environmental problems cannot be addressed in heartbeat. So addressing environmental problems cannot be in heartbeat, meaning that when we teach about environment, such as climate change today, and then suddenly tomorrow climate change will gone. So this is not like a magic. So there is a consistency, there is persistence and commitment, and also patience in this case to strive forward to teach about English. The very first movement or the very first, kind of change that we can make is to transform or to shift the paradigm, the worldview. Because climate change is actually the problems of ideology, the problems of mind, the problems of perspectives. If we can change the worldview, then we can make the students or us become a part of the nature connections. There is a good study from Labyrinth in 2023 where this study kind of give a spectrum from the shallow connections to nature to the deep connections to the nature. So if we can bring the students to the deep connection to the nature, meaning that we address or shift the worldview of the nature or the worldview of students towards the nature, then we can actually make a big difference. So make a big difference not only necessarily can be seen as an action, but can be also seen a change of paradigm. So remember, at the end of the day, of course, we want the students to pro-environmental actions. But this is not an instant way in a heartbeat. We need a process in this case and patience. So if it's okay if we change the awareness, if we make the students to be aware, at least they know first what is going on and what they can do. And we need to push forward the students so that they can take action. So that's why in our study or in our ELT classes, we also incorporate not only discussions, but also action, such as project-based learning, trash cleaning, beach cleaning. So those actions can make a big difference. Maybe we cannot see right now at the first hand, the students do this. Do the students really will apply this in everyday activity? So this is not taken for granted in this case. So we cannot just teach the students about climate change and then directly the students the next day will address climate change. So this is not taken for granted. We need to make a room. We need to facilitate the students, create an activity for the students so that the students can continuously do this process. And I do hope that Eco-ELT is applied from the kindergarten, from preschool to even like higher education. So that there is a trend, there is a consistent movement from all levels of education. And in that way, we can actually make a big difference in terms of actions. So that's what I can respond actually.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Viola, you want to ask your question next?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you really very much for this talk. I'm not from this area at all, but I am a lecturer in TESOL, where I've been trying to mention climate change in my sessions on current issues and in ELT. So when you said that there is a lack of work still, or not a lack, but sort of lots of potential that really
Yeah.
resonated, because I was struggling to find references and sources to tell my students about. I found that TESOL and sustainability book, so I look forward to reading more of your work. But my question would be, so you've mentioned this lag, but do you feel that what are the challenges for bringing this Eco-ELT into sort of more mainstream publication venues in ELT and in applied linguistics? What have you faced there, and have you got any ideas? And also, as a second question, if we have time, what can we as teacher educators do to sort of multiply your cause and get other teachers to do what you're doing?
Okay.
That was a
Thank
lot,
you very
sorry.
much for your questions, Viola. So the first is challenges related to like maybe the research trend, yeah, the research, or we as a scholars. This is like the challenge that I experienced firsthand, because this is a new movement. And Eco-ELT, remember, ELT mostly the mainstream is about language acquisition, language learning, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. But we incorporate new discipline, environment. So the discipline of ELT will be multidiscipline or interdiscipline. Sometimes we also incorporate eco-criticism, other critical study, such as animal studies, and then the other study to really kind of situate our paper, our research, so that it can have solid argumentations in terms of why this research is important and what is the novelty of this research. But the challenge is editor. They have not yet known about the importance or even the presence of environmental teaching in ELT. Even eco-linguistic is just coming right now, yeah, and then it is kind of a huge movement right now, eco-linguistic. But then the challenge is come from the editor. My article about Eco-ELT actually was rejected 5 times, and 5 times rejected in the first phase of rejections, editor. So when I submitted, I waited like 3 months, and then 9 months, and then suddenly rejected because of not what is it, a part of the scope. So your study is not within our scope. Well, this is already ELT, but this is multidiscipline. So the challenge is to convince to the board of reviewers, board of fields of us as a reviewers, as a board of editors, that come on, we should welcome this kind of interdisciplinary kind of study within our field, so that we can boost more the movement of Eco-ELT. Second challenge is because of we integrate different fields, yeah, ELT, environment, and then maybe the other also language, literature. Sometimes we kind of confuse where we stand with when it comes to reconstruct theoretical review or theoretical judgment, conceptual framework. So this is my challenge. When I kind of write conceptual framework, I kind of confuse where I stand. Should I stand in the field of more towards echoing the field of environment itself? The portion is 70%, while I kind of, if I give a space for discussing or my theoretical framework heavy, or the focus of environment, my theoretical framework only 70% on environment, then I have a lack of solid justification theoretically on ELT. So I kind of confuse where I stand. So I kind of reflect, and the best way is go back to your ELT. So please give more portion for ELT to shine, so that give 70% for the ELT to frame your your theoretical framework when you write an article or when you study an article, and then incorporates critical parts from other disciplines. So this is the technical, but this is also powerful enough to convince, to to the public and to convince to the kind of editors that we are still in your field, because we give 70% portion of ELT to argument with, and then the other is interdisciplinary. So right now, my paper is in the second stage of review from TESOL Quarterly. I think you know TESOL Quarterly, right? Or TESOL Journal. So it's already been a year, but in the second stage, so there are 5 reviewers. Remember, 5 reviewers is a lot. Usually 2 reviewers is a lot. This is 5. But this gonna be a first movement that captured in TESOL, related to the Eco-ELT. And this is related to eco-writing, writing about animals and plants in academic writing, and then how this foster academic writing skill and also empathy to non-human beings, such as animals and plants. So I do hope that I can publish this year so that I can share it to you. That's the first answer for the first questions. What about the second question? What we can do? First, join the community. So I would like to share the Facebook group so we can kind of cooperate and also getting updated and get in touch with scholars across the globe that have the same interest with us. Sometimes we feel alone. At the first time, I feel alone. So that I join a lot of community, and then I invite everyone, okay, if we have the same vision, let's make it a good community in this case. There is also a good Facebook called ELT Footprint. It's already established previously. So that's a movement in ELT related to environment. But first thing first, we can you can join the Facebook group. I would like to share the link later in the group, in the chat sections, the Facebook link group. And then maybe I can share my papers and then my kind of courses, syllabi, so that you can adapt. Because last time, my speaking course is situated within eco-critical discussions. So the first, because the whole speaking class, I modeled the students such as World Cafe, UN meeting model speaking assembly, and then kind of the other activity, but talking about the first day climate change, the second day about what? About air pollution, biodiversity loss, and so on. So I gathered, I situate my course the whole semester in the topic of environment, but in the speaking course, because this is EFL, English as Foreign Language, kind of status in our country. So that's what I can respond from your questions.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jepri. And actually, we are out of time. So I think if I did have questions, and I believe there might be more questions from the audience. So I put Jepri's email in the chat. So feel free to approach Jepri, and I will certainly, if not today, in a couple of days.
We can have collaborations of research, teaching, and so on.
And Jepri, if you know colleagues who would like to join the language and social justice strand, I think I'll put it in the chat as well, because we definitely have room for eco-pedagogy in not only in ELT, but in teaching other languages as well. So I think it would be good to have your team as part of ELINET as well. So if there are no other questions, I get notifications for different things. I would like to say thanks to Jepri and say, like, just like, the work that you do is really, like, important, and fingers crossed on that TESOL quarterly publication.
This year, I do hope.
We look forward to reading it. Thanks, Jepri.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming to the talk. See you and have a nice day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and hope to touch base with you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.